Good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank everyone for coming. Senators Reid and Kaine and Coons and Cortez Masto for joining us. Now, we have a lot on the agenda this week, so I'm going to get right to the thing on everyone's mind, NDAA. Thanks to the work of many, especially Jack Reed, last night the Senate began the process for floor consideration of the annual defense bill, a bipartisan vote, 72 to 25. Over the weekend, nearly all the committees across the Senate worked round the clock on a substitute. I must have been on the phone with 25 members on the weekend with a manager's package that has 51 amendments, 21 from Republicans, 21 from Democrats, 9 bipartisan. This morning, we locked in an agreement to begin consideration of amendments on the floor, and we'll begin voting this afternoon, continuing an open, constructive process. I hope and expect there will be more votes tomorrow and next week. For more than 6 decades, we have worked in good faith to pass the NDAA. It's a prime example of how the Senate can work constructively to provide for our nation's defense, take care of our service members and DoD civilians, and make investments necessary to innovate and build up our military and intelligence capabilities. If both sides keep working together, I hope we can pass the defense authorization bill before we leave for the August state work period. And as we have every reason in the world to finish it quickly, there's a lot that both sides can celebrate in the NDA's provisions. And I'm going to point out a few that may not have gotten the attention but should, because they're important. On China, we make much-needed progress on outcompeting the Chinese government. As you know, we're putting together a total bipartisan China package, but the beginnings of it are already in this bill, showing you the seriousness and success we're having. And that includes making progress on the AUKUS agreement and competing with China on emerging technologies. That is in the manager's package. It includes dedicated efforts on outcompeting China in quantum computing, increasing U.S. leadership in advanced nuclear technology, and reinforcing alliances and agreements in the Pacific, like COFA, the Compact of Free Association, and by authorizing the full budget request for the Pacific Deterrence Initiative. One of the things that is so important is fighting fentanyl. And the two committee members, Senators Scott and Brown, had put together the Fend Off Fentanyl Act, which is really tough stuff against fentanyl. I worked hard with Tim Scott, and he reached out to the House side because of the blue slip issue, and that is now in the manager's package. It's a huge win in the battle against opioids, one of the most important issues we face. As you all know, more people have died of fentanyl than others. It allows sanctions against China and Mexico, declares a national emergency on fentanyl and fentanyl coming into the country, which gives the president broader powers that he needs to fight this, and deals with precursor chemicals that both China and Mexico, well, China produces the chemicals, Mexico processes them. Tough sanctions on both of these countries if they continue to send fentanyl to us. And on AI, we've taken some important steps on it in this bill. The amendment I offered worked with Senator Rounds, Young, and Heinrich, directs DoD to research critical issues like explainability, increase data sharing within DoD, increase reporting on AI's use in the financial industry, and creates a bug bounty program. And another bill, we're not talking as much about this, what we're making great progress on is the appropriations bill, where Senators Murray and Collins have gotten together, and we're on the path to producing all of these bills out of committee, bipartisan. And this is a point I want to make. These are two of the most important things we can do, funding defense and funding the government through the appropriations process. The contrast between the House and glaring. In the House, there's all kinds of partisan divisions. There's no votes by Democrats and Republicans. And there's all kinds of MAGA amendments that just get in the way of getting anything done. Compare that to the Senate, where bipartisanship is working well and smoothly. The contrast is glaring, and we hope that the House takes a lesson from the Senate and works in a productive way so we can pass these important bills. Senator Reid. Oh, Senator Cortez Masto has to go to an appointment, so Jack has graciously conceded to let her go.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader Schumer, and thank you to my colleague Jack Reid and the ranking member, and really all of everybody in the Senate for working in a bipartisan way to move NDAA forward, get it done. I'm here to talk about the Fend Off Fentanyl Act. So pleased to be in the Banking Committee and see this move in a bipartisan way out of the committee, and now it is part of the NDAA. As we all know, and I hear in my community all the time, fentanyl is a danger. It's a danger to our families. It's a danger to communities. It's a danger to first responders. I've been hearing about this horrific impact of this crisis in Nevada, and I've seen and heard about it in every corner. What we do know are international drug cartels and money launderers have built a sophisticated supply chain to bring fentanyl into our communities. This has really gone on for too long, and we have to stop the flow of fentanyl into our neighborhoods. And we start at the very top of that chain, as you heard Leader Schumer say. We go after the precursor drugs. We go after where it's processing, no matter what country. And what that means is we follow the money. We follow the money and put sanctions on those that are engaged in those precursor drugs, those who are engaged in the processing, to ensure that we're holding them accountable. The bipartisan legislation makes sure that we stop fentanyl at the source by creating new, stronger sanctions to crack down on fentanyl traffickers and manufacturers. Quite frankly, without the ability to fund these criminal enterprises, traffickers and manufacturers would be forced to shut down their operations and stop the flow of fentanyl into our communities. And that's why this legislation is so important. It also provides and gives our law enforcement additional tools that they need to combat this crisis. So in order to continue this battle to get fentanyl off our streets, we need to approach this fight from all angles. We need to follow the money, and we are stopping bad actors from profiting off of dangerous drugs that we know are destroying lives. So I'm so pleased that Fend Off Fentanyl Act is included in the NDA. And again, I want to thank the leaders and Jack Reid and all of the senators who worked in a bipartisan way to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Senator Reid.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Leader. The NDAA is critical to sustaining our military, having a strong and effective military. The Senate Armed Services Committee voted the bill out 24-1. It is a bipartisan piece of legislation from its initiation through last evening, where there was an overwhelming bipartisan vote to move forward, and we want to maintain that bipartisan effort throughout. The Senate bill authorizes $876.8 billion. That's in keeping with the debt ceiling agreement. It advances significantly U.S. capabilities and accelerates modernization. It targets research and development, technology infrastructure, and provides, we hope and believe, major advantages on the battlefield, while also ensuring that the U.S. is better equipped to counter disinformation, cyber threats, and other emerging technologies. It addresses the long-term challenges of China, Russia, and other threats to the national security of the United States. It also includes an historic 5.2% increase in pay for the troops who serve us each day and who themselves and their families are really the great patriots of this nation and have to be recognized as such. It provides additional tools for the health and welfare of families, and we are also giving the military resources to boost their recruiting efforts. Now we're into the process of floor consideration, which will require thoughtful deliberation and negotiation, and Senator Schumer has established a process where both sides will be offering amendments. We'll start this afternoon. In fact, we've already incorporated hundreds of amendments, beginning with the committee markup all the way through the manager's package we submitted yesterday. We will take tough votes. That's our job. But we need to focus on substance and our warfighters, not partisan cultural wars. Our troops, our allies, our adversaries, the young men and women who serve, they're watching. So I hope this process sends a very strong message and upholds our core values. The Senate will work, and I'm confident will succeed in a bipartisan manner for a piece of legislation that will protect the nation and recognize the sacrifice of our forces. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Kaine.
Well, thanks to my colleagues, it's an honor to be on the Armed Services Committee, and I particularly want to thank Senator Reid for marshaling this very bipartisan bill through the committee and Senator Schumer for guaranteeing a robust floor procedure. I echo what colleagues have said. I'm the chairman of the Sea Power Subcommittee. This bill is very strong in shipbuilding, ship repair, because our Navy increasingly in the Indo-Pacific is the go-to force, and this is a very strong bill for Navy assets. What was said about fentanyl and other priors is important, but let me just talk about one additional area that's really important, that's a little more about my Foreign Relations Committee jurisdiction than my Armed Services jurisdiction. America's strength is very, very much tied up with the strength of our allies. Our adversaries don't have the network of allies that the United States has. And two aspects of the bill that I think are really exciting have come through the Foreign Relations Committee. One is making an advance on the historic AUKUS framework announced by President Biden in September of 2021. The U.S., Australia, and the U.K. joining together on Pillar 1, first to explore the expansion of nuclear submarines in the Indo-Pacific to promote regional stability. In the 2030s, that will be U.S.-constructed submarines that Australians will train to operate and repair, maintain, decommission. But by the 2040s, we will help Australia develop their capacity to build their own nuclear submarines. And the second pillar, Pillar 2, is other technologies, hypersonics, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and trying to have an integrated defense presence with these three allies, already part of the Five Eyes nations, will be good for the United States, good for the region, good for the world. And second, in a few moments, we'll vote and send a powerful message about congressional support for NATO. NATO has demonstrated its mettle. To those who questioned the viability of NATO, all you have to do is look and see what President Biden has been able to do to cause NATO nations to link arms and defend a sovereign Ukraine against an illegal invasion by a human rights abusing dictator. That is happening because of NATO, and NATO is growing with the accession of Finland and Sweden. But a question has been open for some time about whether a president could unilaterally withdraw from NATO, and that makes our NATO allies nervous. The bill we'll vote on after 3 o'clock is a bill that will specify that no president of any party at any time can withdraw from NATO without congressional action. It will be seen by our NATO allies as a strong validation that Congress stands with and appreciates what NATO has been doing. America is strong on its own, but we're much stronger with allies, and our networks of allies are frankly the asset that our adversaries wish they have and they don't. This bill will go a long way to strengthening our alliances, and that way I'm really excited about it. Senator Coons.
Thank you, Leader Schumer, and thank you, Chairman Reid. Leader Schumer really took the initiative in the last Congress to craft and to lead and to get to President Biden's desk the CHIPS and Science Act, which is resulting in $50 billion of new investment in bringing back to American shores the advanced manufacturing of semiconductor chips. This was a critical step forward, both to strengthening our own economy, our national security, and bringing our country together because it was a robust bipartisan bill, and there was a lot of other legislative work done in the last Congress in the CHIPS and Science process that is now going to be brought forward and incorporated through amendments into this National Defense Authorization Act. Thank you, Chairman Reid, for always looking after our troops and for delivering the support they deserve, the resources they need, and the technology that is critical in this moment. There are a lot of critical amendments in this NDAA process, bipartisan amendments that are going to move us forward in our competition with China, both economically and for our national security. And I'll close by saying, just to amplify what my friend and colleague Senator Kaine said, at Vilnius at the NATO summit, we saw the importance of a strong, capable, and engaged president who has pulled NATO together in the face of Russia's brutal invasion and occupation of eastern Ukraine. NATO has never been stronger. But to sustain the strength of NATO, those alliances that are the foundation of our security, we need to continue to invest. in our capabilities, in the capabilities of our partners and allies, and to extend comparable investments to countries in the Indo-Pacific that seek to be strong, sovereign, and independent in the face of coercion. This bipartisan process is in sharp contrast to what is happening at the other end of the Capitol, both in the appropriations process and in the NDAA process. It is my only hope that after the Senate shows the capacity to take up many amendments, debate them, discuss them, incorporate them into a bill, and send it to the House, that the House will recognize this is the right path forward to strengthen America's security. Thank you.
Thank you, my great colleagues. We'll take the way back there.
Would you keep the Senate in session in August in order to confirm these nominees that Senator Tuberville is holding up?
Look, the bottom line is on 2 points. First, in terms of Tuberville, both McConnell and Thune have disagreed strongly with what Tuberville is doing. It is their responsibility to get him to stop this policy, which is reckless and hurts our national security. In terms of staying, look, our first job is to pass NDAA, and then we'll see what goes from there. Yes?
Mr. Leader, thank you. Really quickly, I just want to get your thoughts. If the former president, do you think the former president should be indicted on charges connected to January 6th? And if he is, are you concerned about security here?
Look, first, no person is above the law, including Donald Trump. We should let the process play out without political or ideological interference. Yes?
Thank you, Leader Schumer. What are red lines for Senate Democrats as it pertains to the NDA? For example, what amendments that relate to abortion and DEI would that be a red line for Senate Democrats?
The bottom line is that we want to get this done without amendments that undo the bill, are dilatory in any way. So far, our Republican colleagues are cooperating. Yes?
Leader Schumer, have you had any direct conversations with Senator Tuberville, and do you rule out giving him a standalone vote affirming the DOD's abortion policy?
The bottom line is that if he wants to have an affirmative vote, we would not object to it. Tuberville said he wanted a vote. We'll see what happens. The bottom line is it's up to the Republican leadership. This is a problem that they have in their caucus, that they have with the country. They are risking our security, and it's up to them to fix it. Yes?
Senator Schumer, you've given committee chairs some sort of deadline or timeline for when you'd like them to produce portions of this China competitiveness package that you want to.
Yeah, we are working with them. Some of the committees are far along in the process, some a little less so. But this is something we'd like to put together by the fall. Yes.
What happens next with Julie Su's nomination? You have at least one Democrat against it. The White House says there's two, including Senator Sinema. Will you support her staying in this role through that election without a vote? Will you bring her to the floor?
Look, we believe she is a strong nominee. We're trying to do everything we can to get her passed, plain and simple. Yes, way back there.
Appropriations process in the House, can we get your reaction to them marking up fiscal 22 levels? Will that lead to a government shutdown? Does it have to be at the 22 levels?
Look,
The policy writer.
the bottom line is that the MAGA hard-right Republicans, the 30 of them or so, shouldn't be dictating policy. And as we learned with debt ceiling, if they dictate policy, America's in big trouble. It's up to the Republican caucus in the House to resist that. Yes. Go ahead.
You attended President Herzog's speech today, but 10 House Republican or 10 House Democrats boycotted that speech, and over the weekend, one of your House Democratic colleagues said that Israel is a racist state. Your response to those comments and the boycott?
Look, the bottom line is I fully and strongly support a strong Israel-America relationship. I'm even wearing my Israel colors suit today. But I've expressed my disagreements directly to Prime Minister Netanyahu. Last one.
Can you talk about your amendment on the UAPs and whether Americans will be able to be guaranteed access to these documents?
Yes. Look, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And there are lots of theories floating around about what has happened with UAPs. We have provided a process, Senator Rounds, myself, Senator Rubio, Senator Heinrich, there are two more, Senator Young, and there's another Democrat. No, is it Gillibrand? Heinrich I named. Well, we'll get to this. Gillibrand, yes. And we think that given proper going through the process so no classified information is revealed. It'll be very helpful for the American people to see exactly what's there, because otherwise there are all sorts of rumors flying around. Thank you, everybody.